Hello everybody, it's Julia here from the Highly Sensitive Tarot. I'm here today to do quite a difficult video actually for me, something that it's taken me a few days to get my head around doing and to feel calm enough actually to do. This is a VR to Mistress Ray, and her video that she did maybe 5 or 6 days ago now about tarot consumerism, tarot addiction. I think she called it tarot addiction. Am I just poor? This video obviously caught my eye and I watched it, and I felt really bad for her. I felt sorry for her. It was awful to see a person earn so little money from doing the things that they enjoy, from having a part-time job, from trying to sell a deck that they'd created from their tarot channel. I mean, I was shocked actually and appalled at how little she was earning from her tarot channel. She's a bigger channel than I am, and she's earning virtually nothing from it, which is just appalling. So the whole thing really for me, although I didn't agree with everything that she said, some of the stuff that she talked about is not stuff that really is relevant for me or bothers me at all. But I was moved by her video. I was moved by the fact that she felt strongly enough to record that video, I guess. This is not the sort of video that I would normally do, and I have written a few notes for myself, and I will probably ramble a little bit and get off point and come back, but only because it will be difficult for me to be articulate really about this subject. So I watched her video and I felt sad for her, and I felt sad for many of us actually in this community, that life is so unfair. The inequalities of life are just ridiculous. The haves and the have-nots in this world. Life is really crappy a lot of the time for a lot of people, and it really moved me. I'm also aware that Mistress Ray has autism, I think, and I apologise if I've got that wrong. I'm not sure if it's autism or ADHD, but that moved me also. I was diagnosed with autism in my early 50s. I'm now 54, and so my diagnosis is still relatively new, and I've masked and struggled with my diagnosis, with my being non-neurotypical for a long time, and I could fully appreciate actually that her doing that video was because she'd been triggered emotionally in some way. And for autistic people, when you are triggered emotionally, our normal, very articulate and rational mind just goes out the window, and you can end up sounding like an idiot. You can end up offending people, upsetting people, being inappropriate, insensitive, just too intense really. In many ways you can come across as too intense, and you can make people feel uncomfortable. And I've spent a lot of my life hiding that side of me and only speaking if I can when I'm in control of myself, because I don't want to look an idiot or a fool or upset anyone or offend anybody. But I haven't always been able to do that, and even now, sometimes at the grand old age of 54, I'm still quite capable of becoming emotionally triggered and saying things that I wouldn't normally, things that I might regret. So, you know, I feel for her. I feel for her. So I watched the video, and then I went to leave a comment, and I was just appalled at the comments, some of the comments. I mean, obviously, a lot of the comments were supportive and kind, but there was a good old share of those comments that were quite offensive, that were insulting, that were rude, that were dismissive, that bordered on bullying, I felt. And as I said, that has affected me. I can still feel that in my stomach, actually, that I'm upset about that, and that has affected me. I do not do bullying. I do not do injustice and inequalities and unfairness. I will become dysregulated in my emotional state if I talk about it too much, because it's really upsetting to me. I just can't abide that kind of behaviour. And it really just made me feel very strongly, well, I almost just felt like I didn't want to be part of this community anymore, because I just thought, what kind of community will attack and bully people when they're vulnerable? You know, really, what kind of community, what kind of person will attack another person when they're vulnerable? I'm just gobsmacked, really, at the whole thing. You know, underneath all of her complaints, underneath all of her moaning, as I said, some of which I don't really necessarily agree with or care about even particularly, but there was a woman who's earning very little money. She's juggling her money, she's juggling her finances, and she's feeling quite hard done by. And she actually had some really valid points. You know, she brought up some really valid points. She might not have brought them up in the most articulate fashion, but they were valid nonetheless. And her emotional expression of that was valid nonetheless. You know, we are supposed to be a conscious spiritual community of people, and yet people behave so badly. You know, there are people that should be ashamed of themselves, to be honest, that have attacked her. And I think this is feeling particularly upsetting for me, because it was only a few weeks ago or a couple of months ago that my good friend Farah at Farah Nadila was attacked in a very similar fashion. She also became upset by inequalities and unfairness, and she did a rant video. Again, I didn't necessarily agree with everything that Farah said, even though she's my good friend and I love her to bits. I didn't agree with everything that she said, but nothing that she said and nothing that Mistress Ray said made me feel personally defensive. None of it did I take personally. All I could see in both of these people was their pain and their hurt and their feelings, and I wanted to acknowledge and validate their feelings, not dismiss them. And I'm so pissed off, actually. I'm so pissed off that people behave so badly. So, what else do I want to say? What have I got in my notes here? Because as I said, I'm sorry, I'm normally quite articulate if I can be, and I don't know whether you can hear it even in my voice, but I can feel, I get adrenalized quite easily when I'm upset, and I can quite quickly burst into tears or get angry or express my emotion in a way that's difficult for other people, and I'm obviously very keen not to do that here. So forgive my ramblings and forgive me going sort of back and forth with things. So thinking about why did people react badly to Farah? Why did people react badly to Mistress Ray? Well, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, I think that people become defensive when they hear things that resonate, that they might get a visceral reaction to. You know, their stomach might churn, they might get a tightness in their body, and those feelings in your body are telling you something. They're telling you that what you're listening to is registering as a truth in some way, a truth. So if you've heard something and it's made you feel defensive and it's made you want to lash out, that's because you've just had a big mirror put in front of your face that you've looked in and you've gone, oh, that's me. And whether your conscious brain wants to acknowledge that or not, that's still the truth. You can see yourself in that mirror, and that's why you've reacted in the way that you have done. No other reason. You've reacted badly because there is truth in those statements, and you feel it. You feel it in your body. Your body acknowledges it, whether your mind wants to or not. And really, you would think, wouldn't you, that if that were to occur, that person might sit there and think, that's not very comfortable. Why is that? Perhaps I ought to go away and think about that. I might even go away and think about that and get my cards out and pull some cards and look at the cards and think about it. I might have a chat with somebody about it. I might do some shadow work. I might think about why that has made me feel defensive and has made me want to react and lash out. Because let's be clear about something. We have choices. We can react or we can respond. And I wrote about this earlier. You know, reacting comes from a place of fear. It's a lashing out. It's an instant, unconscious reaction. And it comes from a place of fear. If you respond to something, you are responding from a place of truth and love. You've taken time. You've taken time to formulate your answer. You've thought about it and you've taken time to respond. So there is a big difference between reacting and responding. And the unpleasant and nasty comments on her video were from people reacting and reacting defensively. And as I said, this is the only reason why people react like that, is because there's truth. There is truth. And just because she didn't say things in exactly the right way, just because she didn't sugarcoat it and dress it up and make it palatable for people, it doesn't mean to say that her message and her words are not valid. So there's that. I'm not condoning or saying that it's okay actually for people to rant in their videos. In fact, I think when I joined this sort of tarot community, I was quite shocked to see videos with people saying, sorry, this is a rant or something like that on there, because to me, a rant is like it's an angry outburst, is a rant. And I've rarely seen anybody do anything too extreme in that way. So maybe we ought to think about our language when we state, you know, when we're trying to give across a message of what we're trying to say, because I don't think often these things are rants. they're just somebody trying to express themselves, really. And perhaps we ought to reframe and think about, as a community, about that word ran and what that actually means. You know, I do think that people, I mean, I've named my video Personal Responsibility. On my thumbnail you'll see personal responsibility, because I think that's what this is all about. And I'm sure that Mistress Ray, just in the same way as lovely Farah, you know, if they'd had their time again, they may well have done their videos differently. They may well have said things in a different way. They may have gotten their own emotional state in order and under check a little bit more before they did their video. You know, that may be something to learn out of all of this. But I'm definitely not sitting in judgment of people that become emotional in doing their videos, whether in an angry way or an upset way, because we're all human beings, and many of us here on YouTube suffer with mental health problems, or we're not non-neurotypical in some way, neurodivergent in some way. We have autism, ADHD, ADD. There's an awful lot of anxiety around. You know, even for people who don't suffer with any of these conditions, life is hard. You know, life can be really stressful for all of us these days. The last few years, I think we've all taken, you know, a real kicking in a lot of ways in every level of our life. You know, we're all feeling the pinch with money. You know, our money doesn't go nearly as far as it used to. You know, we're all feeling these things. And so I'm not going to sit in judgment of anybody that is perhaps impulsive and feeling in a state, is feeling like they need to express all of this emotion. You know, we ought to, as a community, be able to support people when they fall, you know, when they fall down briefly, because we all fall down briefly in various different ways. Some people are just happier to do it more publicly. I don't know. You know, we're all allowed our opinions. We're all allowed to be triggered by things. You know, perhaps in an ideal world, people wouldn't rant in their videos, but this really is not an ideal world, is it? And can we not see past that and actually see a person who is hurting? Yeah. Do I have anything else to say? See, my whole thing about all of this, really, the whole thing about indie decks. So I've had my channel coming up for 2 years. I have one indie deck. I have around 60 decks. You can see them all here. I have around 60 decks, and one of them is an indie deck, and it's the Pensive Path by the lovely Reese Marin, and I love it. It cost me £65 to have shipped over from the US to the UK, and I was entirely happy to spend that money. That didn't seem excessive to me to be shipped here. I love the deck. I've gotten a lot of use out of it already, and I will continue to, so I don't feel bad about that. I have one indie deck, and if I'm really honest, although obviously I completely, you know, get that, you know, the creators of decks need to be supported, and that you know, that they've put a lot of time and effort into creating their decks, and that's really important and very special, actually. But I still don't really get the big drama the big excitement about indie decks. You know, 59 of my decks are mass market decks, and I love them. I get such a lot of use out of them. I really use my decks for self-reflection, for self-development. I always have done, and it doesn't really matter to me whether it's mass market or indie. So I can't get my knickers in a twist about the whole indie thing. But I do think that as a community, this is a valid subject, and it is an important subject, because the people on YouTube that have an awful lot of indie decks have spent an awful lot of money on them, and we all know that. And that just shoves in many of our faces this inequality of life, doesn't it? And it's I was thinking the other day, it's like the difference between buying your clothes at a supermarket or buying them in a fancy shop. You know, it's the difference between little indie shops and big supermarkets. You know, they're different rules apply to different things, and there's different positives and negatives in each. I don't know. It's all a matter of perspective, I suppose, isn't it? I think I'd written a note like that. This sort of inequality, it's a matter of perspective. You know, currently in my life, I'm reasonably comfortable. I'm not rich, but I'm not poor. You know, I can afford to buy a couple of decks a month if I want, mass market decks, by the way. But I can afford to buy a couple of decks a month if I want to, and I often do, and I don't feel bad about that. Why should I? I can afford it. I'm not going into debt. I'm not taking money away from anybody else. I'm doing something that makes me happy. That's my hobby. It's fine. I've got just no issues with that. But there have definitely been times in my life where I have been poor, you know, where I haven't had a lot of money, and I would have never been able to afford to buy the things that I'm buying now. And I may well at that time have been pissed off and not enjoyed watching a lot of tarot tube stuff, because I wouldn't be able to afford to be part of it. So, you know, it is all a matter of perspective. And I think I'd seen somewhere that somebody had written a comment like, you know, to Mistress Ray's video, like, you're not poor, you know, what are you talking about? This is ridiculous. You know, think about people that are homeless and such like. But it is all a matter of perspective. We can only go with what we know, and who really knows anybody's real personal situation? You know, I've been homeless in my time. I've been homeless twice, actually, in my life. I've also worked jobs where I've earned a lot of money. I've been married and had a lot of money coming in. But I've also been living on state benefits and been a single parent and been homeless. And my life has been really hard at times, and I can still remember that, you know. So it is all a matter of perspective, and we need to stop judging each other on these things. So I think also what I want to bring up is YouTube is a public forum, and I think what has offended me and upset me a great deal about what's happened recently with the Mistress Ray's video, and also Farah's, is that yes, these people put their videos out and they ranted and they said what they wanted to say, and people watched those videos and they commented. But we have to remember, when you comment on somebody's video, you're doing that publicly. The name of your channel is there. We all know who each other is. And if you're leaving a nasty, bullying, dismissive, negative, judgmental comment on somebody's video, we all know who you are. You know, you can't remain anonymous. And I just think that the whole thing is quite unfair, really, because the person who put the video out in a public way gets attacked. But then the person who reacts, not responds, remember, but reacts nastily to that video, reacts and leaves a comment in a public way, just the same as the person who made the video. It's all public, it's all named, but yet none of us will attack back the person who left the comment or the people that left the comment. I mean, I could sit here right now and I could reel off the names of probably half a dozen channels that were particularly unpleasant to Farah and particularly unpleasant to Mistress Ray. But I'm not going to, because it's a kind of unwritten rule on YouTube, and also it's not on. Do you know what I mean? It's just not on. But you know who you are if you're actually watching my video. Who knows whether you're even aware that I exist, but if you're watching my video, you'll know who you are, because as I'm saying these words, you'll feel it somewhere in your body. Either your stomach will churn, or a little vein in your forehead will start to throb, but you'll know who you are. And you could react to me if you wanted, or you could actually just think about this whole subject and think about how we all behave towards each other, because really that's what's got me in a state, that's what's got me adrenalized, that's what's got me to sit down here and make myself vulnerable, actually, to do this video response. Is I cannot abide bullying, I cannot abide unfairness, I cannot abide this, just this bad behaviour, because it's childish bad behaviour, and we need to be better than that. And I think the reason why this is all such a big deal to me at the moment as well is that I've just reached 1,000 subscribers. My channel over the weekend hit 1,000 subscribers. So I'm really, really chuffed and really, really pleased about that. Really pleased. I think I've done something like 240 videos in the last 2 years. So that's a lot of my time and my energy, my investment of my time. The 31st of May is the 2-year anniversary of my channel. And while I was sitting enjoying that and thinking about that, I was planning some videos that I wanted to do. And I've got a list here of some VRs I wanted to do. But I've also, as you can see up here, I've got 3 or 4 decks up there that I haven't reviewed yet, that I haven't done first impressions of. And I wanted to do that before I got into sort of celebrating my 2-year anniversary. And after Mistress Ray's video and all of the nonsense that went with it, I just ended up sitting here feeling like, well, does anybody actually want to watch my review or first impression videos of my decks? Is anyone interested? Will I offend people? Will I upset people? And it all just became like a mess in my head, and it really was a bummer for me. It spoiled my enjoyment of reaching 1,000 subscribers. And like I said, I've got this list of videos here to do that for a moment I was like, well, I might not do them. Perhaps I shouldn't do them. I mean, I've recovered from that now because this is my channel. And I'm going to do what I want on my channel, and you will either watch or you won't. You vote with your feet, don't you? You know, that's how it is. But obviously, I would like to be able to enjoy my effort and my 1,000 subscribers. I'm so chuffed about it. You know, this channel turned my life around 2 years ago and has continued to. you know, as I said, I only recently, in the last, 3 to 4 years, it was about 4 years ago, 3 years ago, I got my autism diagnosis. And my mental health was really poor around that time. I was really low in mood. I was really anxious. And so to start this channel was a major, major achievement for me. And I'm really proud of myself for doing it and sticking with it and not giving up when it was hard, when I wasn't getting many views, when people didn't subscribe, when I was confused. I'm really, really glad I stuck with it, and I'm not going to let all of this drama affect my mood over it, I've decided. And I think doing this video will help me to this is my little rant. I'm going to call this a little rant. I'm not ranting, but I think the YouTube community would call it that. And so it's cathartic for me. It will get it out of my system and I will feel better. But the other reason why this is a big deal to me at the moment as well is because I watched on Carla Astrology's channel, and I will link people in the description box. I watched her do a live stream recently with Farah Nadila, and they talked about the Four Agreements, which is a book by Don Miguel Ruiz. Don Miguel. It was from 1997, and I read this book donkeys years ago, and if I'm honest, I'd probably forgotten it. But I was so glad that Carla and Farah brought this to my attention again, and it's exactly what we're talking about here. So there's 4 agreements. Number 1, be impeccable with your word. Speak with integrity. Use the power of word in the direction of truth and love. So that's really pertinent, isn't it? Number 2, don't take anything personally. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality. And isn't that the truth? That's what we've been seeing here. Number 3, don't make assumptions. Ask questions. Communicate clearly. I think if you can communicate clearly, all the other problems will disappear. So much of the issues that we have in life are to do with our communication. Number 4, always do your best. This will change from moment to moment, depending on whether we're healthy or we're sick, but do your best. So be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best. And isn't that pertinent to what I've just been talking about here? You know, this is to do with what I was saying about reacting and responding. The reacting comes from a place of fear. It does not come from a place of truth and love. It comes from a place of fear because something has triggered you. It's made you feel bad. And as soon as you felt bad, you felt like, I don't like that. And quite unconsciously, all of that gets projected onto somebody else. Some people might project things onto their dog, onto their partner. In this case, it all just got projected back onto Mistress Ray and Farah when she did her video. So we're talking about reacting and responding, aren't we? Reacting comes from a place of fear. Responding comes from a place of truth and love, because it's something that is measured, considered, and it's discerning. You know, it's about the higher good of everybody concerned, because surely that's what we're all here for, isn't it? I mean, I don't know how many people have a tarot channel where they talk about their tarot cards and really they're just a collector. They don't use their cards in any kind of therapeutic fashion. But for me, that's at the very core of tarot. You know, I'm a retired mental health nurse. Therapeutic work shadow work has been at the heart of my existence for as long as I can remember. And not only have I been instrumental and helpful with lots of my clients and patients over the years, I've also done the work with myself. I continue to do the work with myself. You know, I'm not perfect. I'm a work in progress, and I take that very seriously. I take the four agreements, I take the power of the word very seriously. You know, I'm generally a very articulate person. I'm a Virgo sun and moon. I like to be articulate, but it's not always possible to. And I think if you have a condition like autism or any other kind of mental health problems, developmental problems, those kind of issues, there is a very real issue around emotional regulation, and being able to be articulate and rational when your emotions are triggered with something. So that is a big learning curve for those of us that suffer with it. You have to learn how to manage that within yourself so that it's not destructive to you and it's not destructive to other people. And that is a very difficult thing, and I can't do it all the time, but I'm learning and I'm doing better. And that's my only hope for everybody here. So I think that's, you know, I'd written at the bottom here, I'm not being judgy, and I'm really not being judgy of anybody here at all, because, as I said, what others say and do is a projection of their own reality. And I don't know the reality of very few people on YouTube. You know, the people that reacted badly to Mistress Ray's video and Farah's video, I don't know what their reality is. Their life may be really tough. Their life may be really hard. I'm not here to sit in judgment of anybody, but, you know, we are here in a public environment, and we have personal responsibility, all of us, for that. So, as I said, I just want to leave you, I think, with a thought that I wrote down here that really is at the heart of this whole thing, other than the communication aspects of things, you know, the four agreements, the word. But the other thing is, what kind of community are we if we're going to attack people in the very moment that they are vulnerable? What kind of community is that? Because I don't want to be part of that kind of community, and I will not be part of that kind of community with those kind of people. So yeah, there we go. This video could earn me some new subscribers, it could lose me some, it could get me some thumbs up, it could get me some thumbs down. I don't really care. I felt really strongly to do this video because this is really not the sort of video that I would normally get involved in. I'm normally quite adverse to getting involved in difficult situations because they affect me badly. They affect my stress levels. I can get adrenalized, and it can affect my own health quite badly. But this has continued to boil away like a little pit of acid in my stomach over the last few days. So I knew it was something that was important, and I knew that it was something that I needed to talk about. So I do hope that I've made sense. And yeah, please do continue this debate. Please do continue to discuss this, because this situation, this experience, this subject is really important. I think about how we all treat each other, how we all behave, personal responsibility. So I hope to see you again soon. Take care, everybody. Much love to everybody, and thank you for watching.